Many people assume that sharing their struggles openly will automatically bring comfort, understanding and support, but reality often proves otherwise. Not everyone who listens to your problems truly wishes well for you. Human nature varies greatly. While some individuals are sincere and compassionate, others may listen out of curiosity, comparison, or even hidden jealousy. Islam encourages believers to exercise wisdom when speaking about personal matters because revealing vulnerabilities too. The wrong audience can lead to emotional harm rather than relief. A person may think they are simply seeking empathy, yet unknowingly they may be exposing their private life to individuals who do not respect confidentiality. When hardships arise, emotions become heavy and the desire to talk to someone becomes strong. This is natural because human beings are social and seek connection. However, repeatedly sharing personal struggles with everyone around us can dilute the value of our own dignity. Some people may appear supportive in front of you but discuss your difficulties behind your back. Others may measure your struggles against their own lives, feeling secretly relieved that they are not facing the same challenges. The believer is taught to be cautious, understanding that not every ear deserves access to every story. Another danger of oversharing is misunderstanding. People interpret situations based on their own experiences, biases, and assumptions. When you explain a personal problem, listeners may form judgments without knowing the full context. This can lead to advice that is harmful, criticism that weakens confidence, or opinions that create confusion rather than clarity. Instead of finding peace, a person may end up feeling more anxious after receiving conflicting reactions from multiple people. Protecting one's personal matters reduces unnecessary emotional noise and helps maintain inner stability. Islamic teachings emphasize the importance of guarding one's privacy. The Prophet Muhammad, Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Leaf Maksura, Arabic Leaf, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Li, Arabic Lam, Arabic Li, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme, taught believers to seek help with discretion and wisdom. This guidance reminds us that not every difficulty should become public knowledge. Privacy is not secrecy born from fear, rather, it is a form of self-respect and spiritual intelligence. By limiting who knows about your struggles, you preserve your honor and prevent unnecessary interference in your life. This approach also protects relationships, as excessive complaining about others can damage bonds and create long-term resentment. People may unintentionally exploit vulnerability. In moments of weakness, individuals might reveal sensitive information that later becomes a source of embarrassment or regret. Words cannot be taken back once shared, and information spreads quickly in social environments. Even those who initially promise confidentiality may eventually disclose details casually, believing it harmless. The emotional impact of betrayal can be far greater than the original problem itself. Learning to filter conversations and share selectively becomes an essential life skill rooted in emotional maturity. There is also a spiritual dimension to restraint. When a person constantly seeks validation from people, their reliance gradually shifts from Allah to human approval. This weakens spiritual independence and creates dependency on others' reactions. A believer understands that human beings are limited. They cannot fully solve every problem or carry another person's emotional burden. Recognizing this limitation encourages individuals to balance seeking advice with maintaining personal boundaries. Wisdom lies in distinguishing between healthy consultation and unnecessary exposure. Sharing a problem with a trusted mentor, scholar, or sincere friend can be beneficial because the intention is guidance and improvement. However, turning personal hardship into casual conversation removes its sacredness and may reduce the seriousness with which others treat it. Selective sharing preserves emotional energy and prevents the exhaustion that comes from repeatedly narrating painful experiences. Maintaining discretion also strengthens character. It teaches patience, reflection, and thoughtful communication. Instead of reacting impulsively, a person learns to pause, analyze situations internally, and seek solutions with calmness. This habit builds confidence because individuals begin relying on thoughtful decision-making rather than emotional reactions. Over time, people who practice restraint are perceived as composed and wise, earning respect from others while safeguarding their inner peace. When a person is going through difficulty, the first instinct is often to reach out to other people for comfort, reassurance, or solutions. However, Islamic teachings guide the believer to begin with Allah before turning to anyone else. This shift in priority is not just a spiritual recommendation, but a source of deep emotional stability. Allah is the one who fully understands every struggle, every hidden pain, and every situation that no human being can completely comprehend. When a person turns to Allah first, they are acknowledging that ultimate control and help belong only to Him. Human beings, no matter how kind or experienced, are limited in their ability to understand or resolve problems. They may offer opinions, advice, or temporary emotional relief, but they cannot see the full picture of what a person is going through. In contrast, Allah knows what is in the heart even before it is spoken. This is why beginning with dua creates a sense of connection that no human conversation can replace. Speaking to Allah allows a person to express everything freely without fear of judgment, misunderstanding, or exposure. There is also a unique peace that comes from turning to Allah first. When a believer raises their hands in prayer and sincerely asks for help, they are reminded that they are not alone in their struggle. Even if the situation remains unchanged immediately, the heart becomes lighter because it has placed its burden in the hands of the one who is most capable. This emotional relief is often stronger than any advice received from others because it comes from trust in divine wisdom rather than human limitation. Many people experience disappointment when they first rely heavily on others during difficult times. Some may not respond as expected, while others may minimize the pain or fail to provide meaningful support. These experiences can lead to emotional exhaustion and feelings of isolation. However, when a person learns to prioritize their connection with Allah, they become less dependent on unpredictable human reactions. This does not mean avoiding people entirely, but rather ensuring that the first response in hardship is to seek Allah's help. Dua is not only a request for change in circumstances, it is also a form of worship that strengthens faith. Every time a believer calls upon Allah, they are reaffirming their belief in His mercy, power, and closeness. This act itself becomes a source of reward and spiritual growth. It also builds patience because the believer understands that answers may come in ways they do not immediately recognize. Sometimes relief comes through changes in circumstances, sometimes through inner peace, and sometimes through protection from greater harm that was unseen. Another important aspect is that turning to Allah first helps refine sincerity. When a person speaks to Allah before speaking to people, their heart becomes clearer and more focused. They are less influenced by emotional confusion and more grounded in trust. This clarity often leads to better decisions when they eventually do seek advice from others. It ensures that their interactions are guided by calm reflection rather than panic or distress. This practice also strengthens humility. A person recognizes their own dependence and realizes that they cannot carry life's burdens alone. This realization does not weaken them. Instead, it empowers them by connecting them to the ultimate source of strength. Over time, this habit transforms how a person views challenges. Instead of seeing problems as overwhelming obstacles, they begin to see them as opportunities to turn closer to Allah and deepen their reliance on Him. When a person goes through life, there are many private aspects that should be handled with care rather than exposed to everyone around them. Protecting your blessings. Personal matters is not about secrecy in a negative sense, but about wisdom, dignity, and safeguarding what Allah has given you. Not every blessing is meant to be displayed publicly, and not every struggle is meant to be spoken about openly. There is a deep spiritual and emotional wisdom in knowing what to share and what to keep private. One of the reasons Islam emphasizes discretion is because not every person who hears about your life will respond with pure intentions. Some people may not intentionally wish harm, but human emotions such as envy, comparison, or misunderstanding can affect how they react. When you continuously talk about your achievements, plans, or even struggles, you may unknowingly open doors to unnecessary negativity. Jealousy can sometimes arise even among close circles, and it can lead to silent resentment or subtle harm that affects relationships and opportunities. Protecting your blessings also means valuing them. When something is constantly displayed or discussed, it may lose its sense of sacredness in your own eyes. Gratitude becomes weaker when attention shifts from appreciation to public validation. For example, when a person achieves something good and immediately seeks approval or praise from others, they are demonstrating self-confidence and a desire to be recognized. They may begin to depend on external reactions instead of internal gratitude. Islam encourages believers to recognize blessings as gifts from Allah first, not as tools for social recognition. Privacy also protects emotional well-being. When personal matters are shared widely, they become open to opinions, judgments, and interpretations that may not be accurate or helpful. People may comment without understanding the full situation, and these comments can create confusion or stress. A private matter that could have been resolved quietly may become emotionally heavier due to unnecessary interference. By keeping certain things within a trusted circle or between oneself and Allah, a person avoids unnecessary emotional burden. Another important aspect is the protection of future plans. Not every intentional goal needs to be announced before it is realized. Speaking too early about plans can sometimes lead to discouragement, distraction, or external pressure. When too many people know about your goals, their opinions can influence your focus. Some may doubt your ability, while others may compare your journey to theirs. Keeping plans private allows a person to work quietly and steadily without external noise affecting their direction. Islamic guidance teaches that concealment of blessings is sometimes a form of gratitude. Not everything needs to be displayed for validation. A believer is encouraged to let actions speak rather than words. When blessings are used responsibly and appreciated internally, they are more likely to grow with barakah, meaning divine increase and stability. Constant exposure to others can sometimes remove the sense of humility that protects blessings from being misused or taken for granted. At the same time, protecting personal matters does not mean living in isolation or refusing all support. It means being selective and wise about who is trusted with sensitive information. There is a difference between seeking guidance from sincere and knowledgeable individuals and openly sharing details with everyone. A small circle of trustworthy people is often more beneficial than a wide audience with mixed intentions. Emotional protection is also part of this wisdom. When a person repeatedly talks about their struggles or blessings to different people, they may unconsciously invite comparison. Others may start measuring their own lives against yours, which can create tension or silent competition. On the other hand, maintaining privacy reduces these dynamics and allows relationships to remain healthier and more balanced. Over time, a person who practices discretion develops stronger self-control and emotional intelligence. They learn to process experiences internally before expressing them externally. This builds resilience because they are not constantly dependent on external validation or reaction. Instead, they find strength in their connection with Allah and in their own sense of awareness. Islam does not discourage seeking advice or support from others, but it strongly emphasizes the importance of choosing the right people for guidance. Not every voice deserves to be trusted, and not every opinion is beneficial for your situation. Choosing trusted and wise advisors is essential for maintaining clarity in life decisions, emotional stability, and spiritual growth. A single sincere and knowledgeable person can often provide more value than many careless or uninformed voices combined. Human beings are naturally influenced by the opinions of those around them. When facing difficulties, it is easy to feel overwhelmed and seek multiple perspectives in hopes of finding comfort. However, this often leads to confusion instead of clarity. Different people may give different advice based on their personal experiences, emotions, or limited understanding of your situation. Instead of helping, this can create internal conflict where a person becomes unsure about which direction to take. This is why Islam encourages consulting individuals who possess wisdom, experience, and sincerity rather than seeking validation from everyone. A trustworthy advisor is someone who is not only knowledgeable but also honest and compassionate. They do not speak based on personal gain, ego, or assumptions. Instead, they aim to guide you toward what is best for your well-being and faith. Such individuals are rare, and identifying them requires discernment. A wise person listens carefully before speaking and considers the long-term consequences of advice rather than offering quick emotional responses. Their guidance is rooted in understanding rather than judgment. One of the dangers of seeking advice from unqualified or emotionally driven individuals is that their suggestions may be influenced by bias. Some people may project their own fears or past experiences onto your situation. Others may unintentionally mislead you due to lack of knowledge or perspective. Even if their intentions are good, their advice may not be suitable for your unique circumstances. Acting on such guidance can sometimes lead to regret, further complications, or missed opportunities. Islamic teachings also remind believers to avoid excessive dependence on human opinions. While consultation is encouraged, ultimate reliance should be on Allah. This balance is important because it prevents emotional dependency on people and strengthens trust in divine wisdom. A wise advisor will often remind you of this balance, encouraging you to make decisions while also turning to Allah for guidance through prayer and reflection. Choosing the right advisor also protects emotional well-being. When you share your struggles with too many people, you expose yourself to varying reactions. It may not always be supportive. Some may unintentionally discourage you, while others may overreact or trivialize your concerns. A trusted advisor, however, provides a safe space where you can express yourself without fear of judgment or confusion. Their presence brings stability rather than emotional chaos. Wisdom in seeking advice also involves recognizing timing. Not every problem needs immediate external input. Sometimes reflection, prayer, and patience can lead to clarity without external influence. Rushing to seek opinions from multiple sources can cloud judgment. A wise person first evaluates their situation calmly and then consults only those who are truly capable of providing meaningful insight. It is also important to understand that wise advisors do not always tell you what you want to hear. True guidance is not about comfort alone, but about truth and long-term benefit. A sincere advisor may correct your thinking, challenge your assumptions, or redirect your decisions if necessary. While this may feel uncomfortable at times, it ultimately leads to better outcomes and stronger personal growth. Over time, learning to identify and rely on trustworthy individuals builds maturity. It teaches patience, critical thinking, and emotional discipline. Instead of being swayed by every opinion, a person becomes selective, thoughtful, and grounded in their choices. This approach reduces confusion and increases confidence in decision-making while maintaining respect for both human guidance and divine reliance. When a person constantly talks about their problems, hardships, or emotional struggles, they are often seen as a sign of weakness or a lack of self-awareness. It slowly begins to shape their mindset in a way that is not always healthy. Excessive complaining can weaken gratitude because the focus of the heart shifts from what is present to what is missing. Instead of recognizing the countless blessings that Allah has already provided, the mind becomes fixated on difficulties. Over time, this repeated focus can create a habit where a person sees life primarily through the lens of problems rather than blessings. Human nature is such that attention follows speech. The more a person speaks about something, the more their mind begins to revolve around it. When complaints become frequent, the emotional state starts aligning with those complaints. This does not mean that expressing pain is wrong, but when it becomes a habit without balance, it can slowly erode appreciation. A person may begin the day with many blessings around them, but still feel dissatisfied because their attention is constantly drawn toward what is lacking or difficult. Islam places great emphasis on gratitude because it is a key to spiritual and emotional well-being. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a practice that shapes perspective. When a believer consciously acknowledges Allah's blessings even during hardship, their heart becomes more stable and content. However, when a person repeatedly focuses on complaints, they are more likely to experience negative emotions and relationships. Gratitude becomes weaker and dissatisfaction begins to grow. This can create a cycle where the more one complains, the more negative their perception becomes, even if their actual situation has not changed significantly. Another effect of excessive complaining is that it can influence relationships. People around someone who constantly complains may begin to feel emotionally drained or distant. Even if they initially offer support, continuous negativity can reduce their ability to engage with empathy. Over time, this can lead to isolation where the person struggling feels even more alone. In contrast, when someone balances their expression of difficulty with gratitude and patience, their interactions remain healthier and more supportive. Complaining excessively can also affect spiritual connection. When a person focuses too much on problems, they may unconsciously forget the blessings that continue to exist despite those problems. This creates a distorted view of life where difficulties appear larger than they actually are. In reality, every person experiences a combination of ease and hardship. But perspective determines what becomes dominant in the heart. Islam encourages believers to maintain awareness of Allah's mercy even during trials, which helps preserve emotional balance. There is also a psychological dimension to this habit. Constantly expressing negativity can reinforce a mindset of helplessness, instead of seeking solutions or trusting in Allah's. A person may begin to feel stuck in their circumstances. This can reduce motivation and weaken resilience. On the other hand, when a person limits complaining and instead focuses on reflection and gratitude, they become more solution-oriented and emotionally strong. It is important to understand that Islam does not forbid expressing pain or seeking help. The issue arises when complaining becomes excessive and repetitive without purpose or direction. There is a difference between seeking relief through sincere conversation and developing a pattern of negativity. A balanced approach involves acknowledging difficulties while still recognizing blessings and maintaining hope in Allah's mercy. Gratitude acts as a protective shield for the heart. Even in difficult situations, a grateful mindset allows a person to see that not everything is lost. There is always something to appreciate, whether it is health, faith, support, or even the opportunity to turn to Allah in prayer. When the gratitude is present, complaints lose their dominance and the heart remains more peaceful. Over time, reducing unnecessary complaining and increasing gratitude leads to a noticeable transformation in mindset. A person begins to feel more content, less overwhelmed, and more aware of the positive aspects of their life. This shift does not necessarily change external circumstances immediately, but it changes how those circumstances are experienced internally, making the journey of life more bearable and meaningful. True strength in Islam is not always measured by how loudly a person expresses their pain or how openly they share every struggle they face. In many cases, real strength is found in silence, patience, and the ability to carry difficulties with dignity while maintaining trust in Allah. Silence does not mean suppression or denial of emotions, rather, it reflects emotional maturity and spiritual awareness. A person who learns to remain composed during hardship develops a deeper sense of resilience that cannot be easily shaken by external circumstances. When challenges arise, the natural reaction is often to speak immediately, seek validation, or express frustration. However, reacting impulsively can sometimes lead to regret or further complications. Words spoken in moments of distress may not always reflect wisdom, and once expressed, they cannot be taken back. Silence in such moments allows a person to process emotions carefully, reflect on the situation, and respond in a more balanced manner. This thoughtful approach often prevents unnecessary conflict and emotional exhaustion. Islamic teachings highlight the value of patience, known as Sabr, as one of the highest virtues a believer can develop. Patience is not passive suffering, it is an active form of endurance that involves controlling reactions, trusting Allah's wisdom, and continuing forward despite difficulties. A person who practices patience does not deny their pain but chooses not to let it control their behavior or decisions. This internal discipline is a sign of true strength because it requires self-control and deep faith. Silence also protects a person from unnecessary interference. When everything is spoken aloud, people may begin to form opinions, assumptions, or even judgments about your situation. Some may offer advice that is not helpful, while others may unintentionally add confusion. By choosing silence at the right moments, a person preserves clarity and avoids external noise that can distort thinking. This allows for better decision-making based on reflection rather than emotional reaction. Another important aspect of silence is its connection to tawakkul, which is trust in Allah. When a believer chooses to remain calm and silent in hardship, it reflects their belief that Allah is aware of their situation and is in control of the outcome. Instead of constantly seeking reassurance from people, they turn inward and upward, strengthening their reliance on Allah. This trust brings a sense of peace that external validation cannot provide. It shifts focus from immediate relief from people to long-term reliance on divine wisdom. Silence also builds inner resilience. A person who constantly expresses every difficulty may become emotionally dependent on others for relief. While sharing is sometimes necessary, overdependence can weaken internal strength. On the other hand, someone who learns to process emotions internally becomes more self-aware, emotionally stable. They learn how to manage pain without being overwhelmed by it. This does not make them emotionless, rather, it makes them balanced and grounded. There is also dignity in silence. Not every battle needs to be spoken about publicly. Some struggles are personal between the individual and Allah. Keeping certain matters private preserves self-respect and prevents unnecessary exposure of vulnerability. This dignity helps a person maintain confidence even during difficult times, as not constantly defined by their struggles in the eyes of others. Silence can also enhance spiritual reflection. In quiet moments, a person is more likely to turn to prayer, contemplation, and self-evaluation. Instead of being distracted by external conversations, they become more aware of their inner state and relationship with Allah. This reflection often leads to better understanding of life's challenges and a stronger sense of purpose. Over time, practicing silence in appropriate situations shapes character in a powerful way. It cultivates patience, emotional intelligence, and spiritual depth. A person becomes less reactive and more thoughtful, less dependent on external opinions, and more anchored in faith. This transformation strengthens both the heart and mind, allowing challenges to be faced with calmness rather than chaos.